Baba.
Jai Baba.
Avatar
And Baba ki Jai. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. This is the 8th tape of recollections, Meherwan's recollections of being with Baba and with Meherwan Jessawala. This is continuing from the morning session. It's still July 13th, a monsoony afternoon here at Meherzad.
Yeah.
And Meherwan, you had just been talking about the whole saga of finding sort of an emergency crisis saga, I suppose,
Yeah.
finding Guru Prasad during the new life when Baba was looking for a bungalow in Pune at that time. Was this 1950 or?
1951.
1951.
May
1951. Yeah.
So, as I said, it was exactly the time when my final graduation exams were to be held. And so studies were of course out of the question, and as I said, there was this frantic search for some suitable place, and lot of buffetings took place from different quarters. At first Baba made it appear as if it was a very easy thing, and we were held out rosy prospects by people and suddenly were left in the lurch. So Baba reminding us that any effort for him has to be wholehearted, and there has to be strenuous effort for any of his work to be accomplished to his satisfaction. So easy way of having it is not his idea of things, you know. So we learnt it the hard way, at least in this occasion. So any case, Baba liked Guru Prasad, and he was housed there, and at that time the Mandali were housed in the guest house, which was some distance away from the main building, and the women occupied the main building. Now, when Baba was housed there, the word was sent that Baba has allowed me, Papa and Meherji, Gadekar and all those who helped to secure accommodation for Baba to come and see him for a few minutes. This was to be our reward, as it were.
And you hadn't seen him since before the new life began?
Yes. The last, as I said, was when he was in Bindraus and said I was to look after the family and Iraj would look after him, and he waved us goodbye, and that was it.
But you had seen him once by mistake.
Yeah, that was a fleeting glance from the backside of Baba that I saw, but not otherwise. So after a gap of, I think, probably 2 years or so, no less, about 1.5 years. So here we get a chance to see him again. And of course we were given instructions not to talk about anything and not to fold hands when we saw Baba. Those restrictions were there because Baba was still in the new life. But all of us were overjoyed at the prospect of seeing him, and then on the appointed day we all went there. But seeing him, all joy was almost gone, as it were, because the sight that presented to my eyes was Baba totally emaciated. I had never seen Baba physically in such a terrible state. He was down to the last, his neck was sticking out like a chicken neck,
Really?
And he was all worn out, frail. He had to be supported to walk, and because of the piles operation and all that, he couldn't sit. So the duration of our visit, he kept standing. Either he had to lie down or he had to be on his feet. Sitting was a great sort of problem for him. So, and I had never seen Baba so pulled down. So it was a terrible sight to see. But still, the smile that he gave us was as usual Baba's smile. And he greeted and he embraced all of us one by one. And he said he was most happy for all the efforts that we did to get the bungalow, and that he was well pleased with us. Then he said, he then asked me that I hear it's the time of your exams. So he just put the question to me, will you pass? So I said, yes, Baba, I'll pass. I just said that. I don't know what made me say that. Inwardly, I hadn't prepared at all. So Baba says, you'll pass? Yes, Baba. All right. Now go and study at home. You have not been studying, so try to study as much as you can. But
when was the exam?
I think about 4 or 5 days after he arrived at Guru Prasad. So I was in one of the small back rooms, just facing the kitchen, And every day I had to go for marketing, of course. And then after that I would study, but there was such a hubbub in the kitchen for cooking, and Naja was sent there to help Manu and Mama to cook. And for Baba and all the Mandli, the food would go from Bindra house.
Naja was living in Mirzad at the time?
No, with Baba.
Oh, she was with Baba?
Yeah, she was called, I think, at Dehradun. Ever since that, Naja was with.
So she had joined the new life?
Yeah. She was sent to Narimans along with Katie when Baba first embarked on the new life. And then at Dehradun, I think something happened. Mera Mani were in indifferent health, I think, and there was trouble about cooking for Baba. So Naja was called to assist. With, of course, all the instructions never to talk about anything of the old life, and all these other strict restrictions were there. But she joined Baba there. And then she was with Baba. And whenever Baba came to Pune, then Naja would be sent to Bindra house to assist us in preparing food for him. So there was Naja, and they were all busy sending food. And then I was trying to study something.
This uproar.
Yeah. And it was my final BSc, that's a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry and Physics. Difficult subjects, mind you. I had to know all the 92 elements by heart. Supposed to know at least. To be fit for graduation. So I just opened one page and I said, let's study this. It was, I remember the element uranium. So I thought I'll just go through uranium. And mind you, in the exams they asked about uranium from the 92 elements.
Out of all those, you just happened to study the right thing.
And so that is how I appeared in the exam. And somehow I just scraped through all the papers and got through the thing, and was was a full-scale graduate with the degree of Bachelor of Science attached to my name. But hardly knowing any of the subjects. If anybody were to take any tests, I would surely fail. But while I was going for my exams, Naja would get all the people at Bindra House to go before Baba's photo and pray that Meherwan should pass through. And really by Baba's grace I got through somehow. But I tell you, it was such a daunting thing to appear for these two subjects, and for years thereafter I would get dreams about appearing in an exam, and I was not prepared.
It's really an interesting touch that this was all a direct result of the New Life and New Life's contact with you.
I don't
made
know.
it impossible to study.
But really that exam was a terrible thing for me. And for years thereafter I used to shudder at the thought of it.
So this was the end of college?
Yeah, so that was the finals. And then some time later I got the results, that was out. But while I was at Guru Prasad, then Baba, to lighten our moods, there was Neelu there, So Baba points to Neelu and says, see, every day he's getting more and more fat. And here I'm getting thinner every day. Something is the matter with him. He's just putting on weight like anything. So he'll meet the fate of that man in the story. So there's a story in Hindi known as Chaupat Raja, Andher Nagri Chaupat Raja, Takesar Bhaji, Takesar Khaja. It's a very well-known anecdote, a very well-known humorous story in Hindi of a king who was known as Chaupat Raja. And in his kingdom, the whole thing was so wild, the justice was so wild, so lopsided, that in his kingdom the price of a bundle of vegetables and the costliest sweets was the same. Such was this kingdom. So Baba tells Neelu to recount that story because it was appropriate to Neelu. So then Neelu gives out this story. It's about a master and his disciples. They are out on these new life journeys, as it were, of wandering and begging. So it was a very hard life for them, and everywhere they would be despised, or sometimes they could get food, otherwise they would starve, and so on and on. They would travel, and somehow the disciples clung on to the master. But one day they happened to enter this particular kingdom where a bundle of cheap vegetables and the costliest items of food were at the same rate. And so when they entered there, the master gave them liberty to eat. They had some money, and they went and bought the best of food at the lowest price, because his orders were that everything should have the same price. Everybody was equal, and everybody was to be served whatever they wanted at the same price. If anybody dared to charge a higher price, he would be hanged straight away. So the disciples had a big feast of their lifetime, as it were, and they fed themselves until they were fully bloated. And the master let them eat for a couple of days. So then the master gave the order that now it's time for us to leave this place. So one of the disciples was, he said, like Nilu, he was very much after sweets, and Nilu liked sweets very much. Yeah. So then Nilu further tells the story that this man approaches the master and says, "Master, I beg of you to excuse me from following with you now. I think I've found my place here." And I'm really very happy here. Everything is to my heart's content. But the master said, "Beware, my lad, this is no place for you. I warn you, don't tarry here. Better you come along with me." So he says, "No, master, I think I have found my place." So the master says, "Look at the population here. Do you find anybody well fed here?" Or it seemed that everybody was emaciated there. So it was a surprise for them. So they didn't know why it was so. The whole population was like that. So the master says, "Look, there's something seriously wrong with this place. Better we all leave this." So that man wouldn't go, this disciple. And he wanted to continue. So the master says, "All right. Be happy where you are. But when some real difficulty comes, remember me, and I will be there to help you." So he said, "Yes, master," but inwardly thinking that he wouldn't have any occasion to remember him because he would have his palate full here and nothing to worry about because everything was so cheap. The smallest penny could get the best of food. Takesa means with the smallest little penny you could buy anything you wanted. So he says, "I have nothing to worry in the world now. I'm quite happy here. I don't think I'll have any occasion to remember the master." So the master leaves with the other disciples, and this fellow keeps eating and just indulging himself, no end. Eventually he becomes so fat and well fed that he has no care for the world at all. And he's quite happy. But the thing is that this king was a very despotic king there, and he was the sole supreme judge there. So anything he would give justice. And for the pettiest crime, the punishment would be the same, hanging.
Oh, I see. The same principle.
Same, yeah. So you did the pettiest of crime or the worst of it, the punishment was also the same, hanging by the rope. So the whole population always lived in fear of this. And that is why nobody ever put on weight there. And that's why they all appeared so emaciated. But that secret was not known to this happy-go-lucky disciple of the master, So Baba says, "You see, Nilu is like that. Despite my telling him not to, he keeps eating and fattening himself." So the story was so humorous, really we forgot all about the somber atmosphere there, and we were into this story. And then it goes on. There was some construction activity going on, and a wall collapsed, and one donkey got crushed under the wall. So the owner of the donkey came to the king for justice. And so the king called all the people concerned, and who was responsible. The responsibility had to be fixed on somebody, and then he would be hanged, So So the builder of the wall was called, and he said that, "Sir, it's not my fault. The man who was given the job of throwing water on the wall didn't throw proper amount of water, so he's responsible." So the man who's throwing the water was called, and he said that he was not responsible. The goat skin in which he was carrying the water developed a leak, and it was the fellow who supplied me the goat skin. He's responsible. So goat skin fellow was dragged before him. What have you to say? And so on and on it went, until some responsibility was fixed on a person. But that person was so emaciated and thin that no rope could have ever hanged him.
Oh.
Even the tiniest of knot would have slipped out of. So what to do, the king said. So the king gave the order to search out a fat man in the country, in the kingdom, and bring him to his presence. So here was the only fat man in the kingdom, and he was dragged before the king, not knowing what was happening to him. And the king summarily said that, "Well, you seem to be quite fat and the right person to be hanged. As this man is too lean to be hanged, we are going to hang you." But he said, "Sir, what's my fault? The only fault is you are the only fat man here." So then he starts to remember his master and inwardly prays to him, "Master, help me. I erred in not obeying you." And suddenly the master appears on the scene and then tells the disciple to just do one thing: ask for being hanged, and leave the rest to me. And then the master approaches the king and says, "What's going on here?" And the king said, "This man is to be hanged today because of such and such a thing that has happened." So the master says, "Oh no, please don't hang him, hang me." So the king says, "But why?" "Please hang me." So the disciple, under instructions of the master, approaches the king and says, "No, sire, you've pronounced me to be hanged and I demand to be hanged." And so the master and the disciple seemingly begin to have an argument. And the king says, "But what's wrong? Why do you want to be hanged? Why are you so anxious?" So the master says, "Today is the most propitious day for anybody who dies. He'll go straight to heaven. So that's why we are fighting for this privilege. Whoever is hanged today goes direct to heaven." So the king says, "Then that prerogative is mine." And he gives the order that he should be hanged. And so all the people there suddenly pounce on the king because they wanted to get rid of him and hang him.
Oh, wonderful story.
That was a sort of comic story. It was recited in a very comical way, and we all had a mighty good laugh. So Baba says, "See, this man, he's getting too fat and he's ready to be hanged now."
How did Nilu take that? Good
He enjoyed it himself. So that was our visit to Guru Prasad.
How did you, Baba had previously been, the master, the beloved, so forth and so on. Now in the new life, he had rejected those roles. Did you see a different, apart from the fact that you weren't allowed to folded hands, salute or anything, but did you feel any difference otherwise?
Nothing.
Really?
What difference can we feel? Only that outwardly we were not to show any signs of bowing down or folding hands or paying respects or anything. But inwardly everyone was allowed to have their own, even the new life companions. They could have anything inwardly but not to show anything outwardly. That was the condition. So one's faith in the Lord was always there, So there was no question about anything of that kind.
But did he have a different appearance? I mean, apart from being thin, I guess sometimes I see pictures of Baba, like with Mera, and he has a certain distinctive look with Mera to my eye. Or else the one picture of Baba that there in the New Life, there's a different look.
There's one set of pictures where this condition of Baba is there.
Yeah.
I don't know who took that series, but it very much resembles the time when I saw him in this condition. And he was totally emaciated. The New Life had really taken toll of his body. One could see that. He had not spared himself one iota, I should say. Yeah.
How did the others look who had been with him?
It brought tears into our eyes seeing Baba's condition. It was so dreadful. Never before, and never since, I should say, that he was so physically emaciated. Thereafter, of course, he picked up. It's all his universal working, of course, we know that. So, the Baba seemed to enjoy his stay in Guru Prasad. It was very nice. He stayed for quite a long time there. And eventually he left the place, and then Baba went back to Mahabaleshwar. I think thereafter several times he visited Pune just for some treatment of the piles or something. But there were no further stays that year, I think. And
he would visit Pune. Where would he stay for the piles treatments? Would he stay anywhere?
It was just for the day he would come and be gone. It was that time some injection he had to take for pain killing, and so Dr. Merchant was to give him an injection in the rectum, and I don't know where that was to be. I think in the hospital or something. Yeah, but it was a difficult time for Baba. So that year passed by, and then thereafter I remember Baba, I think, shifting headquarters to Hyderabad in the New Life. It was approaching his last phase, the Manonash phase as it was called. So here Baba was at Hyderabad, and then Baba declared that he was now entering the Manonash phase, and it would be the most difficult time ever, that whatever they had seen of the New Life was nothing compared to what he would be undergoing now for this Manonash period. And some of the Mandli also were really nervous about what Baba was up to again. Because if this New Life difficulties were nothing compared to this, then what could this be then? So, well, anyway, only 4 were ready to follow Baba in the Manonash. The rest were sent back, I think probably to Meherazad. And the Hyderabad ashram was also, the Hyderabad place was also left. And then Baba and the 4 disciples, that is Gustadji, Baidul, Pendu and Erich. Those were the 4 that were left. And they started to trudge for the final phase from Hyderabad. And then they went on and came, I think, via Aurangabad. And we hear stories from Erich, how at Aurangabad Baba wanted some blessing of a priest. I think it was that time, if I'm not wrong.
I've heard that story,
Yeah.
but I didn't know that was New Life phase.
Probably it was New Life, yeah. And then I think that cemetery incident where Baba wanted to be in the cemetery and Dheeraj was keeping watch outside and the corpse arrived for being buried. And Dheeraj had somehow to hold the funeral procession until Baba clapped and his work was over. So really Baba could get so many things done by you, which you could never dream of doing on your own. So then from there, of course, via Imampur, and that Imampur famous incident at the mosque, where Baba had that bird incident which happened in the night, when Baba asked the bird to be thrown out of its nest, and then Dheeraj almost did that, and Baba stopped him in time and said, "You should have reminded me of this cruelty on my part, and you failed in that duty," and all that. Despite trying to obey Baba.
Right.
So that was another incident.
These are all Mananash period.
Yeah. And Dheeraj says that the incident which occurred in Mahabaleshwar, when Baba stepped into the old life, and a mistake occurred by Vishnu in not shutting the gate of the stable before the start of the meeting, and some outsiders getting into the meeting and bowing to Baba and causing a disturbance. And then Baba asking people to slap him for getting angry, and people not obeying him properly. And then Meenu Kharas getting up and slapping Baba so hard that his face got turned. So that was fresh in their minds about obedience. So here again in Imampur, then Baba was annoyed about his getting angry with the bird, and then asking them to spit upon him and slap him or something. So here it says that they had to do it, and they had to remember what Baba said about obedience. So all these things were there, very, very difficult things. These are all so many stories to us, but when you had to pass through them in actual life, it was like really passing through fire.
Must have been.
Yeah. And eventually Baba, walking past Seclusion Hill and just casually saying, "Let's go up the hill." And he just climbed the hill from the backside, it seems, and got up there, and he said, "Those two cabins are still up there, let's go and halt there." And then Baba did some seclusion work up the hill. And then again it was very windy, and that was what Baba didn't like at the time. So then the cabins were asked to be brought down. Baba gave Padri was called to do the work. So about, I think, a couple of days was given to him to do the job, dismantling them and fixing the cabin here. And he got it done. And then Baba completed the Mananash phase there.
Mananash means the annihilation of the mind.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that much, but I don't really have a sense of what this Mananash phase was about.
Well, who knows? Whoever can know.
It wasn't something that, like the new life was something in which the companions had conditions which they had to follow.
Yeah.
But it sounds like the Mananash was more on Baba alone.
Yeah, it was his own phase. So he was accomplishing this Mananash. I suppose on behalf of the entire creation, to help his creation in eventually subduing the mind, which is what it is all about. Yeah. So after the successful completion of the Manonash, then Baba announced that it was the end of his new life phase and that he was now entering into different phases of life, as it were. So then the first stages was the life of where weakness would predominate, strength, complicated free life, and then strength would predominate weakness, and all these different phases, and then the fiery free life, and eventually life, which we just took as Baba gave it to us without comment.
We didn't try to understand it.
We didn't try to analyze all these things.
I would think still that the end of the new life would have been greeted with a sigh of relief on the part of all concerned. Was it? I mean, you had the prospect of seeing Baba.
Yeah, that is of course there. And all were of course happy that soon. And in fact, Baba gave out that he would now call everybody and have a meeting and all that. But then within a few weeks of the circular going out, another circular followed that now he has decided to go to the West first, and after returning from the West, the meeting would be held. And so it's postponed. But then he did hold a meeting thereafter. In late 52, I think. Towards the end of 52 in Meherabad. So, as I was saying, then so Baba announced that he was going to the West. Now, Mera was after Baba that Baba, you must get dentures. So, Baba didn't like to have them, but just to please Mera, he sent word to Papa to get hold of a good dentist. So, Papa contacted the top dentist in Pune, one Dr. Bharucha by name. He was the leading dental surgeon at the time. So, he fixed an appointment for Baba, and then Baba came to Bindra house. So, after a gap of nearly 3 years or so, Baba was back to Bindra house.
Wow.
It was a day of great rejoicing for all of us.
It must have been.
Yeah. Then Baba went to the dentist.
What did he look like when he came to Bindra house? Did he look gaunt still, as he had when you saw him the year before?
No, he was much better, much better. Yeah. He looked much better. Yeah. He was preparing to look good for the Western trip,
I see.
He was building himself up.
I see.
Even in these before long fast periods, Baba would eat well. The Mandli would tell us that, especially Naja and all, that Baba would really eat well and as it were building up for the occasion. And then these prolonged fasts would be there, and Baba would extract the last ounce of energy from his body, as it were. Spare no effort. So Baba was looking much, much better, yes. And by the time he went to the West, he was looking almost his radiant self again. Although much pulled down, but still the people in the West were thrilled to see him.
Were you allowed at the stage once again to treat him as a master, as your master?
No bowing down. That was throughout. Then only on rare occasions Baba would allow us to bow down to his feet. That condition continued. But of course we could fold hands and later on he himself declared his avatarhood, and then would ask us to say Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai and all that, yes.
Had you thought of him as the avatar by this time? Baba had not declared himself publicly, but those who were close.
For us it was always that. As I told you, mother would recite to me stories of Lord Krishna, and she would say that he's Krishna come again. So Baba would ask me, who am I? And I would say Krishna ji, and he would make me repeat that quite often and feel happy about it. So it was ingrained from childhood, so it was just there, I just accepted him. As a young child in all its innocence accepts what the parents tell it, So that's the advantage of having one's parents who are really for Baba. Then it's a silver spoon in the mouth, as it born with a silver spoon. You don't have to struggle to reach him. So we were fortunate that way. So Baba goes to the dentist and takes sittings there. Then the dentist tells Baba that he'll make the latest technique dentures of platinum and all that, and he charged a fancy he quoted a fancy price for that, Baba agreed then. But then later on he said that he felt that wouldn't suit Baba, it would be too heavy for him. So he made a different type of denture which was much less in price. But then he didn't reduce the price,
Oh, really?
So my father, as usual, very practical, so he tells Baba that I'm not going to pay him this price for these dentures. So he's quoting the same price and I'm going to fight for that. Baba says, no, pay him that and give him something on top of that. That Baba is very happy with the dentures. They're really good. And Papa was grimacing inside. And Baba asked Papa to go and pay him the full amount. So then when he came with the dentures, then he tells all of us, how do I look now? And he just smiled a little and showed a part of the dentures. Do I look good? So we said, yes, Baba, it looks nice. But we really don't recollect Baba with dentures in his mouth.
He didn't wear them much.
He didn't know. But he showed us how he looked with the dentures.
By that time, all his teeth were gone?
Oh yes, much before that. Long before that. So,
there's another difficulty Baba had to face, eating food with all his teeth gone.
Yeah, that's why Baba liked soft food. And Baba used to eat very fast.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. And he would eat like a small child, very fast, and splash all over his body also.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
And very fast he would eat. But ask all of us not to eat fast. And Eraj used to tell us that within half an hour or an hour, his system would bring out the whole thing.
Really?
It worked so fast in his system. As it were, it went in and was passed out. It was something really unusual. Baba would have several motions in the day. If he didn't have that many motions, then he would say he was not normal.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, now that I had never known. Yeah. This was throughout most of his life he was...
Yeah.
So... Would he digest
food well? That's why there would always be a potty chair handy, Even in cars, later on with his squatting trouble, the potty chair would be there. So, to help Baba relieve himself. And he, I think Eraj mentioned about that visit to Meherabad, one of the Savas days, and he couldn't pass the motion here. and it was getting late, so they were approaching Meherabad. And as Meherabad was sighted, Baba says, now I've got the urge, so drive quickly and I'll go and ease myself there. And about a mile away from Meherabad was all this crowd blocking the road, awaiting Baba's car to come. And they wanted to bring him in a procession. And here Baba was holding on, and Baba then tells Erachand Manli, see, outside is so much joy and such warm welcome and love for me, and here I have to hold on because of love. And they were delaying his going there, and Baba had to hold on and on and on until Baba reached the place where that, outside the Mandli hall where Ted stays now.
Yeah.
That was the room Baba used to occupy. That was the place. So the potty chair was placed there, but Baba couldn't get in there until all the crowd had dispersed.
Yeah. How did those dentures work for Baba? Did they turn out to be good?
It seems that they must be hurting Baba, because he wouldn't wear them quite often. And when he wore them, he didn't wear I think the top dentures or the bottom ones, I think. The bottom ones hurt him. So he wouldn't wear the bottom. And when the accident took place, it was because he was wearing just one of the dentures, the upper ones, I think, that he got badly bruised in his mouth also, because the denture sank into his gums because of the impact, and much blood was lost.
Did he wear dentures after that, or was that?
No, that was the end of it. We don't know what happened to those dentures.
I was wondering.
Probably Mani might be knowing. But I think the bottom dentures he was not wearing then. So this was the saga of the dentures.
This would have been in what, April or May?
1952.
Yeah.
So now he's about to go to the West. I've passed out from my college, and Papa is anxious about my further life. So he wanted me to get some job or anything. First he asked me whether I would want to study further. I was too fed up about studies. I said it won't do to pursue any further studies. So I said no, I don't want to go further. And then Baba asked me to. He called me once during one of these visits to Bindra House before going to the West, and he said that after lunch come and see me. I want to decide about you.
Decide about you?
Yeah. So I was all excited and quickly gobbled my lunch. So Baba says, how come you came so fast? I asked you to eat slowly. I said, Baba, I have eaten of my full. So he says, all right, now I want to decide about your future. So what would you want to do now? Do you want to do studies? So I said, no, Baba. Then what is it you want to do? So I said, Baba, whatever you decide. Baba thinks for a minute or so, and then says, but what would you want to do? So I said again, Baba, whatever you decide. Then after a few seconds, but what would you want to do? So I said, Baba, as I was about to say something, he said, all right, I'll decide for you. You have to take up a job. So I said, all right, Baba. Take up some job and be of help to the family. I don't want you to enter into any business or anything. Take up some job. So that was it. So, and then for the present you take up a job, then I will see later. So I said, all right, Lord. And then also saying he left, and after that he made preparations to go to the West, and he departed. Meanwhile, I started making applications to various advertisements that would come in the papers, and I got a couple of calls. And before Baba leaves Bindra House, after saying all this, he meets Papa and shakes his hand and says, don't worry about Meherwan. It will be all right. I have decided for him. And shakes his hand as if it's accomplished, sealing my fate, as it were. And then I applied and couldn't secure any good place. So in the meanwhile, my father had a friend in an insurance company. So there was some vacancy there, and he says, what has your son studied, by the way? So he says, chemistry, physics. He says, and you want me to employ him in an insurance company? Well, he's not getting any job right now, so the fellow was not very happy about it. He says, it's not his line, this and that. Anyway, I'll see. So we don't hear anything from him, but sometime later he sent a call for me. And it seems that they had another person in mind who was not suitable. So they called me then, and I was selected. So from a graduate in science, I was taken up as a clerk in an insurance company.
Was this a good job?
Well, the starting salary was ₹60 a month.
That would be quite low even in those days.
Yeah, it was low. But so it was so low that the dearness standard had gone up so much that they gave an allowance of another 60. They would call it dearness allowance. Yeah. So that was my starting pay. And of course I was neither interested in the pay nor whatever kind of job. It was that Baba had asked me to seek a job and start working, so I just took up the job, and I started work there. And I think they asked me to come the next day, which was I think about 20th May or something. And 3 or 4 days later I read in the paper that somebody there in the office brings this Times of India newspaper. In the front page is the news about Baba's accident.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's how you heard about it in the newspaper?
The next day it had come in the paper. We hadn't heard anything about it until then. And I was shocked to read that. And in the meantime, of course, Erach and Pendu had been sent by Baba for the mass lecture tours, as it were, all over India. They had to meet groups of people and tell about Baba, because Erach had refused to accompany Baba to the West.
Right.
So that was another story which Erach tells us. A very nerve-shattering story of how it was really physically impossible for him to give company to Baba any longer. His whole body was shaking after the new life.
So even Erach, who was the youngest and quite a strong fellow in real life, even he was shattered.
Yeah, he felt totally shattered. And he thought that this was it, the horse has returned to the stable, and now he felt that he would feed here for the rest of his life.
That's what he thought.
Retired. So Baba says, get ready for the trip to the West, and Neeraj just said it was not possible. And then Baba was displeased. And then, of course, the order to go on a tour of India and Pakistan also at that time. So,
which turned out to be an utterly exhausting experience.
Oh,
in its own
yeah.
right.
So, night and day they had to work as it were. And Baba gave him the energy to withstand that ordeal. Yeah. And he had never spoken publicly before then. Just as I had never spoken before a camera all these years. And you are extracting things out of me. So Baba extracted things out of him. And Baba spoke through him, and it was really wonderful. And all Andhra and Hamirpur were on fire to eagerly await Baba's darshan.
They really heard of Baba through that visit of Arichas and Pendus.
Yeah, but there was some background there. Other people like Vibhuti and Baba Das and all these people had been talking about Baba. But then Neeraj and all went and gave all this, including the new life, and that really shook them up, And it was really a time of great upheaval for those people there. And they really took Baba in, as it was, soaked him in. It was a great occasion, yeah. So then, I heard about this accident, and Erach and Pendu were there, and somebody brought this telegram, and Erach says that he was totally nonplussed about this thing and what to speak to these people. So quietly they wound up the tour and returned to Meherabad. And at Meherabad, a telegram was awaiting them that they should not discontinue that tour and carry out whatever Baba has told them. So from Baba, with the pain of the accident, had sent a telegram from America, cable.
Really?
Yeah. Remembering that these people might stop the work that was entrusted to them.
So Baba sent it to Meherabad, even though they should have been somewhere else.
Probably, I don't know exactly what it was, but some cable was awaiting them there. So they had to resume their tours right away.
So they got back on the train and back to where they'd been.
That's right.
Wow.
After a short interlude. And of course I carried on with my job in India. And to await Baba's further instructions, whatever they may be.
How did you get more information about the accident? Were there calls in, or?
Yeah, then of course all telegrams and letters and all those telephones, and we got to know details later. How it happened.
Khurshid also, Khurshid Irani, had heard of the accident through a newspaper article. And that's how they found it in Bombay from...
because Times of India had a good reporting system worldwide, and it got the news the very next day.
Wow. What a way to find out.
But mind you, I think in 1948, if I remember right, Baba had sent out a circular, and in that circular there were several points, and one of the points was a great personal disaster would undertake me shortly, which would test the faith of my lovers, the love and faith of my lovers, and that I exhort them to hold on to me whatever happens. So this great personal disaster was there. I think 1949 or 48, one of these years, there's a circular, and clear mention is there.
And he had said that he had to spill blood on the American continent.
After the accident occurred, he had to say that. And of course, Mani tells us about the incident with Elizabeth way back in 1932, I think, when on the very same date, I think 24th of May or something, that Baba picked up a flower and gave to Elizabeth and said, remember this date, it's important. So it was probably all planned well in advance. When he was probably when he was with us as Muhammad. So that was how must have planned everything. So that is how it is, and I think we'll stop here for the next session.
Okay.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. This is July 20th at Meherzad. We're still on the 8th tape in this new Mahabharata of the most recent God-man, Meherwan Jessawala, recollecting some of Baba's life as it was made evident to you. Last session, a week ago, we had gotten as far as Baba's accident in Oklahoma. And as I had been mentioning to you before, this occurred during what Baba called his complicated free life. And in fact, this whole year, 52 to 53, there were the 3 free lives. Baba coming out of the new life and out of Mananash into the complicated free life that began March 21st to June 10th, followed by the full free life from June 10th to November 15th, and then the fiery free life, where Baba said different things about these free lives. And I was struck this morning about a message Baba gave on February 12th, which was celebrated as his birthday that year, I guess from the Zoroastrian calendar. And Baba gave this invocation. He said, "O God, today being my first real birthday, my heart expresses that the declaration of the life by me was entirely